So yeah, finally, Dave Aranda gets his first win in this rivalry since he took over as the Baylor head coach in 2020. They've certainly had their chances to win this game. 2020, they were pretty evenly matched. 2021, they were not evenly matched because Baylor was much better. They still lost. 2022, not evenly matched, but Baylor had them on the ropes, was about to knock TCU out of the 14 playoff. Wasn't to be. And then last year, kind of evenly matched. Neither team made a bowl game, and TCU wiped the floor with Baylor, just wiped the floor with them. And this time around, both teams came in with momentum, both coming off big-time victories. Baylor over Oklahoma State, TCU over Tech. They both won a couple in a row. Both these coaches were on the hot seat earlier this year. One of them, at least, might still be on the hot seat. But Dave Aranda outcoached Sonny Dykes in this game. Sonny Dykes, who brought TCU to the national championship game 2 years ago. And now, much like the Dave Aranda fallacy of what we were looking at a few weeks ago, many of the TCU fans are wondering the same thing about their coach. Well, did he do it? Did he have his best season, his only great season as head coach with somebody else's players? We've been saying it about that with Baylor in that Sugar Bowl in 2021. And they're starting to say that about Sonny Dykes in that 2022 run to the national championship game. Was it Gary's team that Sonny just, took over at the end and got him into the garage? Many are saying. But really, it comes down to me two plays that ensured that Dave Aranda outcoached Sonny Dykes, because it didn't look like it was heading that way. I don't think Baylor made great second half adjustments on defense, which I had called for at halftime of like, hey, TCU cannot run the ball. They do not have a running game. They're completely one-dimensional, and they were killing Baylor in that one dimension. Josh Hoover, good quarterback, heck of a receiving core. Should have had a touchdown in the second quarter. Trying to remember who it was, just completely dropped it in the middle of the field. No one was ever near him. It could have been a TCU touchdown. Instead, it was a punt. So all that to say, like, TCU's offense was going with what they had. Again, no running back, none at all. Good game, Kendall Briles, because they were dialing things up and had Baylor on the ropes. They scored 5 of their last 6 possessions. But what I want to look at is that possession they did not score. Dave Aranda's got things to work on. That defensive backfield needs some work. We're going to talk about that throughout this week. It needs some work. But where Dave Aranda got the upper hand and eventually took over and won in this coaching battle was that one possession in the second half that TCU did not score. Because they've got the ball at the Baylor 46 with about 10 minutes left. It's a 4th and 2. And they punted it. And I remember thinking at the time, man, if Dave Aranda did that and Baylor lost this game, we would be crushing him this whole week. What kind of sissy doesn't go for it on 4th and 2 from the plus 46 when they haven't stopped you on 4 straight drives to that point? And so I got to ask the same question to Sonny Dykes. What are you doing? I know you don't have a run game. It's not like you've been running all over them and you could just 4th and 2 easy, but they hadn't stopped you. They couldn't cover anybody. Again, 4 straight scoring drives leading up to that. And you have a chance to really push them to the edge of the cliff here. And it was a tie game at that time. It was 27-27. You could have really put the pressure on him. You didn't. You punted. Baylor comes down and scores a touchdown. They did it for it was a touchback. So 20 yards of field position in a game like this. I'm sorry, man. That was a bad call at the time. Became a terrible call once Baylor wins the game. And so no matter if you're an offensive coach, defensive coach, if you're calling plays, if you're not calling plays, the head coach makes the decision on 4th down and whether to go for it. Sonny Dykes put his punt unit out there. Dave Aranda showed some serious balls on Baylor's final drive. And it's one of those calls that if you don't get it, it's really dumb. And if you do get it, you have a lot of balls. Dave Aranda had a lot of balls on that because I thought it was a dumb call and they ended up getting it. It's 4th and 9. They had just picked up the flag for pass interference that would have put the ball at the 29-yard line. You've got it at the 44. There's about 16 seconds left, and he's going for it. He sends his offense out there on 4th and 9. Sonny calls timeout, and I'm sitting up there thinking, okay, they tried to draw him offside, whatever. But obviously they're not going to go for it on 4th and 9 here because TCU is going to get the ball near midfield with a timeout now remaining after Sonny calls one, and all they need is a field goal. So one play and they're there. The way you've been covering all night, that could well happen, right? And then the timeout ends. And then Baylor's offense goes back out there and they run a play on 4th and 9. Ball's dragging on the turf, man, because Michael Trigg comes up with the big catch, 15 yards, gets you to the 29 where you were going to be anyway. And then they continue to drag those on the turf. They run it to Bryson Washington, who will not go down, gives you 13 yards, sets up a 33-yard field goal, and we are walking off winners. Dave Aranda outcoached Sonny Dykes with that. Dave Aranda was more aggressive and had more confidence in his team when Sonny Dykes probably should have had more confidence in his team. And that's how you win these games. And I think to some degree, Dave Aranda realized that. This was not like a, hey, I'm making a statement here. This is him saying, I believe in this team and we're going to win this game because of this. And I can't remember which player said it in the postgame as I was driving home, taking a half hour to get out of the media parking lot. But they said, they were asked, JMO asked him about that 4th and 9 call. It was one of the offensive linemen, I believe, Lengyel, said, we want to win games on offense. And that's what they did. This team wins games with offense and on offense. And I think that goes a long way of what we were saying during the losing streak, that this team had no identity. We didn't know what kind of team they were. We didn't know what kind of game they would have to win games. We didn't know what they were going to do to, expose other teams' weaknesses and play to their strengths. They just told us. They told us with that 4th and 9 call. We want to win games with our offense, and we want to win games on offense. I do need to take a minute. I talk about this in the postgame, but I need to take a minute for two things. One of them is the disgrace of the Big 12 officiating. So Baylor gets it at the 1-yard line. They get called for a false start, moves them back to the 6. Then they run up and they run a play. It's basically a trick play. It's a jump pass, like the old Tebow jump pass. Sawyer Robertson leans into the line, drops back, jumps it, throws to the fullback, touchdown Baylor. Except they threw a flag as the ball was being snapped. And the reason why was to clarify to anyone who would listen that the call before was a false start. Okay, we knew that. And so then Baylor's pissed, right? Because now they have a quote-unquote trick play that's on tape, and they can't use that anymore. And then Baylor goes to the line again, 2nd and goal from the 6, 1st and goal from the 6, and they throw a flag right as the ball is about to be snapped again. So they've shown their formation to Sonny Dykes and TCU. And the flag this time was to review a play that was kind of 2 plays earlier, but only 1 play earlier because it was a dead play. So now they're reviewing the first play. And it ends up being offsetting penalties because TCU had too many men on the field, which they didn't call the first time. So Baylor now has 2 formations on tape there. They can't run those plays. Like important, basically 2-point plays down at the goal line where you're waiting all season to see when you're going to take these plays out. Can't use those anymore. That's a big time advantage to the defense. Huge advantage to TCU there. Horrible officiating. What are we doing there? We throw 3 flags for 1 penalty. It just blows my mind. And the other thing, too, the fans storming the field. How dare you storm the field against a 5-4 team? Are you kidding me? No, I'm not kidding you. Storm the field. Yes. I have been one who's like, dude, who cares when they storm the field? Really, at the end of the day, who cares? If it's a fun win for your fans, there's only so many times you can do it. I never got to do it as a student. So don't take that for granted. That is a good thing to do. And I got to give credit to Dean Straka, who covers TCU, was at the game for TCU. And he tweeted out there was like, a lot of people are going to say it was dumb that they rushed the field. But honestly, rivalries like this are being taken out of college football. We're losing them year after year after year. And the fact that there is a game where both teams are going to be 5-4 at the end of it, and it can mean that much to a fan base, we need more of that. We should not be poo-pooing that. We should be encouraging that. Take the fine, okay? And who cares what anybody else says? This game meaning something, Baylor and TCU meaning something, is good for college football because we are taking out these rivalries all the time for the sake of more Washingtons versus Michigan and less Baylor versus Texas. We're eliminating these games. We want more of USC, Ohio State, and less of Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State. And that's wrong. And so when we do get a game like this that is preserved and means something to both of these fan bases, we need to encourage that. We need to keep that, and we need to celebrate accordingly. If TCU did the same thing, last year against Baylor, whatever. Like that's what college football is about. Keep storming the field for games like that. And maybe we'll be storming the court this year because we are ready for a top 10 Baylor basketball matchup tonight, late tonight. Let's go over that and tell you about these new look Bears coming up on Locked On Baylor. Thank you for making it to the end of the video, and thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network part of your daily routine. We have got you covered with the most Baylor Bears athletics coverage of any outlet that's not directly tied into Baylor University. So if you want more of that, be sure to like and subscribe. Ring that notification bell to get notified every time we're dropping a video here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, and sick 'em.